Chakra is one of the best power systems in anime and manga, but I want to use my unique view on power systems and balancing to go over its strengths and weaknesses. In early Naruto, especially part 1, Chakra was great. One of its strongest suits was how creative it was. There were several different categories of abilities: ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, clanjutsu, kekkei, summoning, etc. Genjutsu was underused for most of the story, but the rest were done pretty well and created a powerful foundation. With what I've mentioned so far, summonings were like a ninja's trump card. They could summon an animal of varying sizes that would add its own jutsu to the ninja's artillery, and it worked very well. The elemental rock paper scissors was also a creative form of balance. Each element was weak against one element and strong against another, although large quantities of elements can overpower an element that it is weak to. I wish this part of the system was used more often because of how much potential it had. I really liked the execution, or the way the story wrote these abilities. One really cool thing about how the system was written towards the beginning was that strategy could beat raw power. Examples would be Naruto and Sasuke versus Zabuza, Shikamaru versus Temari, and Shikamaru versus Toyuya. Having a more destructive jutsu did not guarantee victory, and great strategy could overcome it. Another thing I really liked was how a character could main one jutsu, as long as it was versatile. My favorite examples of this are early Minato and Obito. Early Minato only used flying Raijin, yet he was already one of the most powerful ninja, going up against the future Raikage and the 8 Tails Jinchuriki with just that jutsu alone. Obito almost only used Kamui and was such a powerful threat. Both of these ninja combined their jutsu with taijutsu, but it also goes to show that not only was a destructive power not necessary to be strong, but one versatile jutsu was more than enough to be strong. A character didn't need to be like Hiruzen or Orochimaru and learn several jutsu. Another really great form of execution was the 6 Paths of Pain. The Rinnegan was a powerful jutsu with many jutsu under it, but instead of giving all of these powers to one character, the story cleverly split it up among 6 different characters, with each only being able to use one jutsu. This greatly balanced what could have been a broken antagonist, because each pain isn't that difficult to take on in a 1v1. Half of the paths are only powerful when working together. The only ones that are truly dangerous alone are Deva, Animal, and Ashura, but even then, they aren't broken, because as stated before, they have only one ability. The last positive I want to talk about is escalation. Up until around the pain arc, the escalation was great. The Sasuke recovery arc is one of my favorite examples. Most of the members learn advanced techniques, but there is a clear drawback to them. Kiba learns a double-headed wolf, but he can't see while using it. Choji has the 3 pills, but they take up a lot of calories and almost kill him. Both of these also use up a lot of chakra. Sasuke had the curse mark, but it slowly allowed Orochimaru to take over his body. Naruto had the 9 tails, but it almost always caused troubles for his allies when he used it. Sage mode is the greatest power-up in Naruto. It boosted the user's basic jutsu, but it also had prices to pay. The user needed to be completely still while charging up natural energy, and the mode could only be held for a limited amount of time. While chakra never got completely ruined, there were individual powers used by powerful characters that began to sully its quality. The first issue I have is minor, but that would be how Kekkei was demoted from a unique clan jutsu to mixing 2 elements together. That just made no sense, but I'll move on to more important issues. Susanoo was terrible. It was a near invincible jutsu that had virtually no weaknesses. As a jutsu, it made no sense. It is an avatar made out of chakra? How does one construct it, and why is it so unbreakable? How much chakra does it take? Because I don't think I've ever seen a ninja run out of chakra from using it too much. Whenever Itachi or Sasuke's Susanoo faded, they were already draining their chakra with other jutsu beforehand. This started the concept of bigger is better for jutsu down the line. It is basically a summoning, except all of its capabilities stem directly from you, and it takes no damage. Summonings were balanced because you were basically getting outside help. This isn't the case for Susanoo. Summonings could also be injured and retreated after taking huge damage. Again, this is not the case for Susanoo. It's what I'll be calling a non-summoning. Furthermore, Susanoo's combat was uninteresting. The user stood in place while the avatar swung or fired his weapons. With summoning, the summoner could fight alongside their summoning. This jutsu is such an issue because of how many major players in the story use it: Sasuke, Itachi, and Madara. And sadly, most of Madara's fighting was made up of this horrible jutsu. The next issue is the Jinchuriki. Up until the pain arc, Naruto's use of the tailed beast was fine. Not only did the story try to limit how much he used it, but as I said before, it would often cause harm and be as problematic as it was helpful. Cost and reward. However, B was the catalyst of this problem because he eliminated the cost. He was friends with his beast and suffered no consequences from using its power. Naruto had a lot of chakra, but had to worry about Kurama taking over. B has a lot of chakra and can use Kyuki's powers however he likes, even turning into him on command. This is extremely unbalanced, which leads me to Kurama Chakra mode. I absolutely despise this mode. Not only is the form such an ass pull, but like B, it gets rid of all Jinchuriki costs. and only leaves the benefits, making it unbalanced. Even worse, Naruto's moveset becomes extremely lazy here. The first issue is the chakra arms. Since he can extend them and make so many, he can just stand in one place as the arms do everything. This is such a downgrade from his previous fighting style. The next problem is how he only uses Rasengan. He has so many unnecessary variations of Rasengan, and when you combine that with the chakra arms, you have a character who basically has long-range Rasengans and can make multiple at a time. Rasengan had the drawback of creating only one at a time or two in Sage mode. This is eliminated here. While I said it was cool for a character to have one versatile jutsu, Rasengan is not versatile. It is just an attack, and KCM Naruto doesn't use it very creatively, he simply attacks with it. Versatile would be Shadow Clone Jutsu or Transformation, but I digress. This form takes away from the diversity in Naruto's moveset and replaces it with something unbalanced, uncreative, and visually unappealing. In Naruto's fight against Pain, he had to manage his chakra, but with this form, he can just dump any amount of chakra into any attack. And lastly, KCM gives Naruto a non-summoning to match Sasuke's. Why can Kurama turn into a chakra avatar, but no other beast can? Who knows? My next problem is Hashirama's moveset. When he was summoned in part 1, his powers seemed reasonable, but then part 2 arrived. Hashirama was made to rival Madara, so when Madara's powers started becoming stupid and unbalanced like Susanoo, so did Hashirama's. Since Madara had a non-summoning in the form of Susanoo, Kishimoto decided that Hashirama needed one too, which was the Wood Golem. Again, it has the same issues as Susanoo, except it isn't invincible. When Madara could cover the Kyuubi and Susanoo armor, Hashirama just had to have his parallel, so he was given Sage mode and another non-summoning. Why does Hashirama have Sage mode? What type of Sage mode is it? Why does he have non-summons? Who knows? Next is the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki form. First off, flight is extremely lazy. Not only does it have no costs or limits, not even chakra consumption, but it also makes fights less interesting. The second is the True Seeker orbs. These were incredibly lazy. They are orbs that can turn into almost anything, even a bomb. They have no noticeable costs or limits. The least the story could have done is give them a cooldown or have them run out, but no. The third and final issue is the fact that only Senjutsu and Taijutsu works on them. This advantage comes with no costs and no logical reason. Just another excuse to make the Jinchuriki more broken. My next problem is Late Minato. Earlier I complimented him for being so powerful with only one jutsu. Late Minato says screw that. This man is given the Nine Tails, KCM, and Sage mode. Honestly, my problem isn't when did he get these, but the fact that the story thought that Minato couldn't fight like Obito with Kamui and decided to give him unnecessary and some broken power-ups. It feels like Chakra continued saying bigger is better. My last problem is Kaguya. She was broken with no limits. She had no hints at chakra consumption. Nearly none of her jutsus had built-in weaknesses, and she had the most broken jutsu in the story. All of these problems are solidified when she required a kryptonite to be defeated. A rare MacGuffin needed to be written into the story in order to defeat her. That is what I call a kryptonite, and it is a sign of bad writing. It means that the writer didn't properly balance a character, and this is a last-ditch effort to find a way to defeat them. Kaguya's kryptonite was the seals on Naruto and Sasuke's palms. Even worse, she wasn't defeated, just sealed. In conclusion, Chakra started off very well, and was doing mostly great until after the Pain arc. Most of Chakra's problems stem from a lack of balancing that the system used to have. Jutsu are given strengths without a worthy cost or weakness, and this creates problems in the fights and makes them less engaging and more poorly written. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out my manga for free online. If you enjoy my content, please consider donating to my Patreon. All important links will be in the description.